She walked in after a business dinner and noticed his clothes were gone plus one envelope. The house was dark except for a single hallway light casting a long shadow across the hardwood floor. Amanda stood at the threshold clutching her purse in one hand, the other still wrapped around the key she hadn't let go of yet. Something in the air had shifted, not just silence. Emptiness. She noticed immediately. Then Lee didn't come to greet her. Her heels clicked across the floor slowly at first, then stopped completely when she reached the kitchen. That's when she saw it, the envelope, heavy, cream-colored, resting on the center of the counter like it had been placed there with deliberate precision. Her name was written in ink. No flourish, no affection, just Amanda. She stared at it for a few seconds before even reaching for it. Her eyes started to the living room. The jacket Ryan always draped over the back of the couch gone. The charger that used to snake from the wall to the end table gone. Her chest tightened. She didn't move. Just stood there, he still clutched in her fingers as if unlocking the door had somehow triggered a detonation inside her life she hadn't seen coming. The silence roared. She opened the envelope. Inside were two things, a flash drive and a folded piece of paper. One sentence handwritten in sharp, steady lines. Watch it. And then remember how many times you looked me in the face and lied. No greeting. No goodbye. Just that. She dropped the keys. Hours earlier I was sitting in my car outside of a Thai restaurant on Chestnut Street, watching through the windshield as Amanda laughed too hard at something a man across the table had said. He was mid-30s, short beard, dark blazer, hair that screamed midlife charm offensive. She touched his wrist at one point, just a brush. But I felt it like a punch in the chest. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just leaned back and let it settle in. Confirmation. It wasn't just the physical betrayal that gutted me. It was the ease of it. The smile she wore that I hadn't seen directed at me in months. The way her hand curled around her wine glass like she was performing in a scene she'd rehearsed. This wasn't a fling. This was a routine. That morning I had set everything in motion. I'd moved half my things into a rented loft 2 neighborhoods over. A quiet space. No memories. No ghost of her perfume on the pillows. Bentley was already there, snoring on the new rug like he knew we weren't coming back. I didn't plan to leave her some movie scene note. I didn't want revenge. But I needed her to see it. I needed her to know I knew, not because she told me, but because I was done giving her the space to lie. So I gave her the footage. The PI had done his job. 3 dinners. 1 overnight at a hotel in the suburbs. The same guy every time. Always under a different excuse. I had enough to burn her life down. I didn't. I only sent her what she needed to see that the curtain had dropped and the audience had left. Let her sit with that. She had lied with such comfort these past few weeks. I remember last Tuesday, I'd made spaghetti, her favorite, and when she came home she barely touched it. Said her stomach hurt. Then, 10 minutes later, she laughed at something on her phone and locked the screen before I could glance over. I knew then, deep down. I just didn't want to believe it yet. You know what's worse than betrayal? The person you love doesn't even respect you enough to cover it up well. That's what she gave me, sloppy deceit. After I dropped the envelope I left. No confrontation. No screaming match. Just silence. The kind that buries itself in your skin. She didn't call. Not immediately. That surprised me. But something tells me when she finally does it won't be to apologize. She'll have a story. She always does. She didn't call that night. Not even a text. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a frantic voicemail, maybe the sound of her voice cracking begging to explain something I already knew she couldn't. Instead, the silence stretched through the early morning like a tight wire between us pulled to the point of snapping. By noon the next day it wasn't just silence, it was avoidance. I sat on the floor of the loft, legs crossed beside Bentley, who rested his head on my knee like he sensed something in me had cracked open. I stared at my phone, then put it face down. Then picked it back up. Then put it down again. Eventually I turned it off. I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to lie to me again. Around 2 p.m. I got the first message. Can we talk? I'm confused. Please. Not angry. Not panicked. Just calculated. I didn't reply. 20 minutes later came another. I don't know what you think you saw, but I swear to God, Ryan, it's not what it looks like. Please call me. That one made me laugh. Out loud. It's not what it looks like. How do people say that with a straight face? Do they rehearse it in the mirror? The next message came in a flood. Paragraphs? Yes, I met someone for dinner. But it's not what you think. He's a former client. He was going through a hard time and I was just trying to be supportive. He hugged me goodbye and I guess if someone was watching it might have looked bad. But nothing happened, Ryan. I would never hurt you like that. I love you. Please believe me. Right? Except I wasn't watching the night she held his face in her hands at night. I was in a space in her hands outside a cheap hotel and kissed him like she meant it. I wasn't there when she walked in with him and didn't come out until 7 a.m. But the PI was. And the time stamp didn't lie. Still I didn't reply. 3 hours later she called. I let it ring out. 5 times in a row. Then silence again. She left one voicemail. I waited a while before I listened to it. Her voice was too calm. Ryan, I don't know what you think is happening, but I think you're spiraling. This kind of behavior isn't healthy. You packed up and left like a coward. You could have just asked me. But no. You made it a thing. Like you always do. If you're trying to manipulate me into chasing after you, congrats. It's working. I'm worried about you. I think we should talk. But when you're ready to act like an adult. She hung up. I played it again. Then again. I just sat there stunned. That was her angle? Gaslight me? Pretend I imagined it? I spent 6 years loving that woman. Really loving her. Picking up groceries she forgot. Texting her midday reminders so she didn't stress. Listening to her cry at night about clients who screamed at her. Telling her she was enough even when she hated her body or her job or herself. And here she was treating me like the problem. I think that's when the anger finally hit me. Not the loud kind. The cold kind. The kind that starts in your spine and spreads behind your eyes. The kind you don't shake. She hadn't just cheated. She had rewritten the story to make me the villain. And I realized if I went back, if I even cracked the door open to let her speak, she'd find a way to twist it. Make herself the victim. Make me out to be paranoid, insecure, toxic. But I had receipts. Literal ones. Footage. Dates. For smiling that smile I hadn't seen since last year. With him. I stood up, walked to the desk, opened my laptop and uploaded everything to a folder titled Closure. Not for her. For me. That night she finally texted. I don't even recognize you anymore. You've changed. And for the first time in months I smiled. Because yay. I had. The next day she showed up. I heard the knock before I saw her. 3 short raps like she was trying not to sound too eager. Too loud. Too exposed. I stayed still on the couch, Bentley immediately lifting his head and growling under his breath. He always liked Amanda. Until lately. I watched through the peephole. There she was. Her perfectly in place, not a strand out of line. Light makeup. Just enough to say, I didn't cry over you, but I look good enough to make you regret leaving. She was holding her phone in one hand and a tote bag in the other. Probably filled with props, forgotten shirts of mine, maybe a framed picture of us to tug. The memory strings. I almost expected her to pull out a PowerPoint presentation. I didn't open the door. She knocked again. Then her voice. Steady. Too steady. I know you're in there. Bentley's bark isn't exactly subtle. She waited a second. I'm not here to fight. I don't know what to do unless we talk. That line? I don't know what to do unless we talk. She used it once before. 4 years ago when I caught her texting some guy named Jason at midnight on the porch. A friend from college, she'd claimed. I confronted her. She swore it was innocent. That I was making something out of nothing. That she needed emotional space sometimes and it wasn't about me. She made me apologize then. I opened the door. This time I didn't. Instead I raised my voice just enough for her to hear through the wood. I'm not interested in hearing any more of your fiction. She paused. What are you talking about? I haven't lied to you, Ryan. And just like that we were off the rails. I opened the door halfway. Leaned against the frame. Colder spilled in. Her eyes widened like she hadn't expected me to actually confront her face to face. She looked surprised that I didn't look broken. You haven't lied? I asked, my voice flat. Then who's the guy you've been spending nights with in Pyramus? You think hotel clerks don't remember faces? Or that security cameras don't exist? The flash of guilt that flickered across her eyes barely a second was all I needed. But she caught herself quick. That's insane, she said, scoffing. You hired someone to follow me? That's psychotic. I laughed. You think that's the issue here? That I confirmed what my gut already knew. I can't believe you're turning into this bitter, paranoid freak, she snapped. Her voice wasn't calm anymore. There was the bitch beneath the shell cracking open. You always had control issues. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with being the perfect husband, I wouldn't have needed. She stopped. I tilted my head. Wouldn't have needed what, Amanda? Her mouth opened and closed. No sound. I stepped back and opened the door wider, gesturing toward the hallway behind me. There's nothing left in here for you. You don't live here anymore. You made the decision when you got into that guy's car instead of coming home. I didn't sleep with him. She said quickly, as narrowing. You're creating a narrative to make yourself feel like the victim. Nothing happened. I stepped aside, reached to the table, picked up the manila folder. I'd already prepared. I held it out. Then you should have no problem watching this. She hesitated. You're bluffing, she said, voice lower. You can watch it right now, Amanda. I said, stepping forward. Right here. Once we live it together. She didn't take the folder. Her hands stayed frozen at her side. And for the first time I saw something real behind her eyes. Not rage, not guilt. Fear. Not the fear of losing me. The fear of exposure. I'm not doing this, she muttered, turning away. You want to make me out to be some monster? Fine. Enjoy your little pity parade. And then she walked off. Heels clacking against the hall floor, back straight, like she hadn't just been caught. Burning her entire marriage to the ground. I didn't chase her. I closed the door. Slowly. Bentley lay back down, tail thumping once. Peaceful. Like he knew she wouldn't be back. Neither did I. And for the first time in months, the silence in the apartment didn't feel like a threat. It felt like relief. That night I slept for 8 uninterrupted hours. No tossing. No checking my phone at 3 a.m. No rehearsing arguments in my head, imagining comebacks I'd never get to use. Just sleep. Heavy, dreamless, necessary. When I woke up, the city outside felt quieter somehow. Or maybe it was just the absence of her in my head. Amanda always had a way of taking up space without even speaking. She could clear a room with a look or fill it with static when she was hiding something, which I now realize had been happening for a long, long time. Around 10 a.m., I checked my phone. For missed calls. 2 from an unknown number. 1 from her sister Paige. 1 from her old friend Kayla. I didn't answer any of them, but I listened to the voicemail from Paige. It was short, tight, like she didn't know what to say but felt obligated to say something. Hey Ryan, I heard what happened. Amanda told me you were going through something, but I don't know, she made it sound like you just cracked. But then I saw her last night. She looked wrecked. And she never does. Just call me if you need anything. Seriously. She made it sound like I cracked. That's how she was spinning it. She didn't mention cheating. Didn't mention the man. This fed her sister some vague mental breakdown narrative, probably hinting that I was unstable. Dangerous. Maybe she even cried a little to sell it. Amanda was good at tears. Not because I wanted to intimidate her. Not because I needed the last word. But because I needed to see what was left. She looked different. Not broken. Just hollow. Like a mask trying too hard to stay attached. That guy, I said quietly, tilting my head toward the car. Is he worth it? She blinked. It's not about him. Then what's it about? She hesitated. It passed me toward the horizon, toward anything that wasn't my eyes. It's about not being invisible, she said. He didn't make me feel guilty for needing attention. He didn't make me feel like I was competing with your perfection all the time. My jaw tightened. You weren't competing with me. You were sabotaging yourself. She turned. Walked to the car. Whatever helps you sleep, Ryan. I almost let her leave with that. Almost. But as she opened the door, I said one more thing. You don't feel invisible because of me. You feel invisible because you never bothered to show up. Not for me. Not for yourself. She didn't turn around. She just got in the car and slammed the door a little too hard. I stood there and watched them drive off. And just like that, it was done. The chapter was closed, not with a bang, but with a quiet, dragging sigh of relief. The kind that settles deep in your ribs and makes you realize how much you were carrying. The woman I loved was a story I had to stop rereading. No amount of remembering would make it less of a lie. I went back to the loft at night and threw away every photo that still had her in it. Bentley curled up by the door, watching me. We were free now. I didn't hear from her again for nearly 2 weeks. The silence was a strange kind of mercy. The kind that feels suspicious at first, like a calm before some fresh storm, but then it just stays. Quiet. Final. I spent those 2 weeks rebuilding my habits. Waking up without wondering what mood she'd be in. Eating whatever I wanted without hearing about clean days or how carbs slow down your energy. Walking Bentley without rushing home to make sure I was back before her temper started simmering. Freedom doesn't always arrive like a gust of wind. Sometimes it just tiptoes into your routine and slowly replaces every anxious beat with. But it wasn't until the 3rd week that I started feeling normal. Not good. Not healed. But stable. That's when I got the email. Subject line for the record. It was from Amanda. No greeting. No emotion. Just one typed paragraph. I know you think I'm the villain in all this, and maybe I am. But I wasn't lying when I said I was lonely. And I wasn't trying to destroy you. You made it so easy to feel like you didn't need anyone. You were always so composed, so damn controlled. I didn't know how to reach you, so I stopped trying. He made me feel seen. It doesn't excuse what I did, but that's the truth. I hope you find peace eventually. It should have made me angry. It didn't. It made me sad. Not for myself. For her. For the version of Amanda who could write that out and still think she was explaining something noble. Still trying to frame infidelity as a desperate, understandable guest for attention. And that last line, I hope you find peace. As if she hadn't been the hurricane. I didn't reply. What was there to say? That she didn't destroy me only revealed that I built too much of my life around someone who never intended to protect it. That night I went for a long walk. Not just around the block, miles. Through neighborhoods I used to ignore. Past homes lit from the inside with warm lamps and quiet dinners, the kind of peace I used to think we were building. I realized somewhere between mile 3 and 4 that I wasn't mourning Amanda anymore. I was mourning my idea of her. That version I built in my head. The loyal, driven, sharp-witted woman who'd walk through fire for me. She never existed. Or maybe she did once before she got bored of everything being too steady. In her world, loyalty was conditional. Affection was performance. And when life got too still, too real, she found someone else to play audience. A few nights later, I ran into Kayla, her best friend. Or former best friend, I should say. We were at the same bookstore downtown. She spotted me and paused like she was deciding whether to say anything. I gave her a small nod. She approached. I'm not here to stir things up, she said. I just wanted to say, I didn't know. About her. What she was doing. I had no idea. I believed her. Thanks, I said. It's over now. She's trying to make people believe you were cold to her, Kayla said after a beat. But honestly, everyone saw how hard you tried. She's rewriting the story because the truth makes her look bad. I nodded. That's her specialty. Kayla nodded back, then said something that stuck with me. She always hated mirrors. I think you were one. She left after that. And I walked home, that sentence echoing in my mind. She always hated mirrors. Because mirrors don't lie. Amanda couldn't stand seeing herself clearly, not without the filters, the excuses, the endless justifications. And I was the one person who never let her pretend. I held up the truth, steady and clean. She smashed it. But I'm still here. Still standing. And for the first time in years, I'm starting to see myself clearly again. It was a Saturday morning when her name lit up on my phone again. No text this time, just a missed call and a voicemail. I stared at it for half an hour before pressing play. Her voice was different this time. No anger. No performance. Just hollow. Ryan. I shouldn't be calling. I know that. But I was driving past the lake this morning, you know, that little spot off Ridgeview where we used to take Bentley? It looked the same. Still has that ugly bench with the chipped green paint. I thought about you. About us. Not the end. The beginning. When we were still okay. I don't even know why I'm leaving this. You won't call me back. But if I could rewind things, I would. Not just the cheating. All of it. The way I treated you. The way I talked to you like you were furniture in your own life. I see it now. And it's awful. I sat perfectly still, thumb pressed against my phone screen, jaw clenched. I was so angry all the time, and I blamed you because you were safe. Because I knew you wouldn't leave. You were constant. Solid. And I hated that I couldn't shake you. So I tried to break you. I think I really did. And now. She trailed off for a moment. Anyway, I'm not calling to ask you to come back. I had to say this to someone who remembers who I used to be. I'm sorry, Ryan. I really am. No background music. No crying. Just words. Stripped of spin. But I didn't feel the pull I expected. I didn't feel that old reflex. The one that used to whisper maybe she means it this time. That reflex had died weeks ago. Buried under every lie. Every gaslight. Every time she turned guilt into a weapon. Still something about the voicemail nodded me. Not regret. Relief. She was finally starting to see the damage she'd done. Not just to me but to herself. To everything we tried to build. But it was too late. I didn't delete the message. But I didn't respond either. Instead, I made a new folder on my laptop. Titled it Unfinished. I dropped her voicemail into it alongside a few old photos. Not to dwell on. Not to revisit. But to remind myself the closure isn't always clean. Sometimes it lingers in fragments. That same evening I had dinner with an old friend, Darren. He and I hadn't really talked much over the last year. Amanda never liked him. Said he was too cynical. Translation. He saw through her. We met at a pub near his office. Sat outside under the heaters, 2 beers deep, before either of us said anything meaningful. You look lighter, Darren said finally. Like a guy who isn't trying to hold up a ceiling by himself anymore. I laughed. I was holding up a whole damn house. I know, he said. We all knew. You just didn't. He told me a story about the time Amanda called him a parasite for suggesting we spend less time double dating with her coworkers. She cornered him at a party once, told him he was bad for my growth. He never told me that. Said he didn't want to make me choose. I didn't get it then, I said. But now I do. He raised his glass. To freedom. However ugly the road there is. And we clinked. When I got home that night, I took a long look around the loft. It was quiet, but not in that haunted, empty way. Just quiet. Peaceful. Amanda's voice didn't echo in here. Her perfume didn't cling to the pillows. Her presence didn't live in the walls. It was just me. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. I walked over to Bentley's bed, rubbed behind his ears. He rolled onto his side with a satisfied grunt. You good, buddy? I asked. He thumped his tail once against the floor. Yeah. We were good. We were healing. About a month after the last time I heard her voice, I received a letter. An actual letter. Handwritten, folded neatly in an envelope with my name on it. Not Mr. Ryan or to my husband or anything flowery. Just Ryan. In that unmistakable, sharp, confident handwriting of hers. The kind she used when she was closing deals, not writing love notes. It was slid under the door of the loft. Bentley hadn't even barked. I guess even he knew she wasn't a threat anymore. Just a ghost passing through. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the table for 2 days. Unread. Unopened. Daring myself to touch it. There was something final about it. Something weighted. She hadn't texted again. Hadn't called. Not a whisper. So whatever was in that envelope was probably her closing argument. Her version of an ending. On the 3rd day I broke the seal. It wasn't long. Ryan, I know you're not looking for more words from me. But this isn't for you to respond to. I just needed to say it. I was cruel. I know that now. I used your steadiness as my excuse to drift. I twisted your patience into control. And when I felt small, I tried to shrink you to match. That's not love. I know that now too. I've started therapy. Not because I want to win you back, but because I want to stop being someone who leaves people worse than she found them. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you know that what I did had nothing to do with what you lacked. You were more than enough. I just wasn't ready to be anything real. I hope the next woman sees you clearly. Amanda. That was it. No return address. No attempt to pull me back into anything. Just a letter written with a shaking honesty I never saw in her while we were together. It hit me hard not because I wanted her back but because it confirmed something I'd been quietly hoping for without realizing it. That she finally understood what she'd done. I put the letter in the drawer with the folder labeled unfinished. Then I went outside. It was cold. Winter was brushing in early this year and the wind coming off the river carried that bite that makes your lungs ache a little in a good way. The kind of air that wakes you up. I stood on the bridge near the end of my block watching the water pass underneath. Relentless. No breaks. No apologies. And I thought about everything. The nights I stayed awake while she came home late and lied straight to my face. The dinners she skipped. The fights she picked. The way she weaponized silence. The man who took what I cherished like it was just some casual thrill. The version of me I became. Diminished. Careful. Constantly calculating how to not upset someone who seemed disappointed in my existence. And now I don't flinch when the phone rings. I don't second-guess my tone in messages. I don't feel like I'm apologizing for breathing. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to torch her world. Life handled that on its own. Her guilt. Her silence. Her letter. All of it was proof that walking away without screaming was still loud enough. Healing isn't pretty. It doesn't have a moment where the light breaks through and you suddenly feel whole again. It's small. It's slow. It's the quiet decision. Every day. To stop reopening the same wound. That night I deleted her number. For real this time. I didn't save the voicemail. I didn't reread the letter. I just sat in the loft. Lights low. A blanket over my legs. And watched Bentley twitch in his sleep like he was chasing something in a dream. And for the first time in what felt like a decade, I realized I had no questions left. I didn't need anything from her anymore. Not closure. Not justice. Not even answers. I already had what I needed. Myself. Winter settled in for real that week. Snow flurries hit the sidewalk, gathering in soft clumps against the corners of the buildings. And the parked cars that hadn't moved in days. Everything was a little quieter. Muffled by the weather. There was something peaceful about it. Like the world was asking me to pause. Just for a little while. To sit still and let things be. I took the cue. Spent more time offline. No more scrolling through old photos. No more hovering over her name in my blocked contacts list. I stopped checking mutual friends' profiles too. Stopped caring what narrative she was building or who was buying it. Whatever story she told about me wasn't mine to control anymore. I had my truth. That was enough. One night, about a week before Christmas, I ran into Darren again. We grabbed coffee instead of beer this time. Sat in the back corner of a quiet cafe. He looked at me for a long second. Then said something that caught me completely off guard. You look like you left something behind finally. Like something heavy. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I did. You forgive her? He asked. I paused. Stirred my coffee. I don't know. Maybe not yet. Maybe never. But I don't hate her. That's the same thing. I thought about that for a long time afterward. It had been 2 months since Amanda and I last saw each other. And in that time I had gone from checking the door expecting her to show up to genuinely hoping she never did. I didn't want her back. But more importantly, I didn't want who I was with her back. I was no longer the guy who tolerated silence as punishment. No longer the guy who twisted himself up to make room for someone else's emptiness. And honestly, the guy I was now. I liked him more. He was grounded. Palmer didn't apologize for taking up space. Around New Year's, Kayla messaged me again. Just one line. She moved. Out of state. I read it twice. 3 times. There was no emotion in it. No plea for conversation. Just a statement. A boundary. I appreciated that. Amanda was gone. Physically. Emotionally. Off the radar. And surprisingly, I didn't feel anything close to heartbreak. No lump in my throat. No need to drive past our old street. It was like reading the last page of a book I'd been trapped in, and realizing I could finally pick up a new one. One that didn't start with lying smiles and end in betrayal. A few nights later, I walked Bentley down by the waterfront again. Same bench. Same chipped paint. Only now it didn't feel haunted. Felt like a checkpoint. Like something I'd survived and come back from. I sat for a while. Watched the cold air roll over the river. Bentley snuggled up against my leg. Eyes squinting against the wind. Then I pulled out my phone and opened a new note. At the top, I wrote, what I want now. Not what I lost. Not what I forgave. What comes next? And as I started typing, no anger. No sadness. No Amanda. I realized something beautiful. This wasn't the story of what she did to me anymore. It was the story of what I did after. The strange how healing doesn't come with a celebration. No big applause. No lights dimming as the curtain falls. It's quieter than that. Slower. The final stage feels more like walking into a room you haven't been in for a long time. Brushing off the dust. And realizing it still feels like home. Even if it looks different. That's where I am now. It's been almost 6 months since Amanda left my life in pieces. And now I don't feel broken. Not anymore. I feel rebuilt. Not because someone came along to fix me. Because I sat in the rubble long enough to understand it. Then I stood up and started again. I've changed. In ways I didn't even notice at first. My mornings are slower. No tension in my jaw. No second-guessing the tone in my messages. I've stopped apologizing for who I am. Stopped trimming myself down so someone else could feel taller. I read more. I laugh more. I've reconnected with people Amanda quietly pulled me away from. You don't realize how isolated you are until you hear someone say it's really good to see you again and mean it. I still walk by the lake sometimes. Not for nostalgia, just because it's mine again. That old bench with the chip paint? I sit there sometimes, sip coffee and watch the wind tug at the trees. The ghosts are gone. They stopped following me when I stopped feeding them. Amanda? I don't think about her the way I used to. I don't wonder who she's with now. I don't check. I don't care. Because I finally understand something I couldn't see when I was in it. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. She showed me where I'd gone quiet to keep the peace. Where I'd bent myself backward to avoid confrontation. Where I stopped asking for what I needed because it made her uncomfortable. That version of me? He's gone. And in his place is someone stronger. Someone clearer. Someone who knows that love without respect is just a performance and that loyalty doesn't. Means sacrificing yourself to keep a liar comfortable. So here's my advice to anyone reading this, anyone standing in the ashes holding the weight of someone else's betrayal. Don't rush to rebuild. Sit in it. Understand it. Feel every part of it. Because the version of you that walks out of that fire will be different. Sharper. Braver. Unapologetically whole. And you'll never mistake crumbs for a meal again. This wasn't a story about how she broke my heart. It's a story about how I stopped letting people treat it like it was disposable. I'm Ryan. I was cheated on. Gaslit. Dismissed. And I lived. Better yet, I healed. Thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, like and share in the comments. Remember, history is a witness to the past, a light of truth, a living memory, a teacher of life, a messenger of antiquity, and see you soon.